After inheriting a fortune, I burned 100 trillion in spirit dollars for myself. My aunt's family, failing to swindle me out of my money, called me crazy. But only I knew that in a month, the gates between the human world and the underworld would open. The current financial system would collapse overnight, and spirit dollars would become the sole currency. In my past life, my aunt's family tortured and killed me for money. This time, with 100 trillion in spirit dollars, I'll watch them destroy each other without lifting a finger. I died. 3 days ago, I spent my last few spirit dollars to save my aunt's family. After my parents passed away, I saw them as my only family. But for a mere 100 spirit dollars, they brutally tortured and killed me. A month ago, the gates to the underworld opened, and vicious demons overran the world overnight. The old currency system collapsed. Only spirit dollars could be used to buy supplies. But what sane person burns money for themselves while they're still alive? So, the demons opened banks where you could trade your own body parts for spirit currency. After I saved my aunt's family, they took over my house without asking. When they found out I was broke, they turned on me. The next time I opened my eyes, I was tied up. To keep my parts fresh, they dismembered me over the course of a day and a night. The torment only ended when they finally cut off my head. I died consumed by hatred, but somehow, I was given a second chance. I checked my phone. The apocalypse was still a month away. At this moment, I had just received my inheritance. My aunt, who usually couldn't care less about me, was suddenly clinging to me like a parasite. In my past life, I was too naive to see people for who they were and truly treated them like my only family. But after surviving a brutal apocalypse, I saw right through their fake act. Their phony concern was enough to make me sick. But thinking about the coming apocalypse, I suppressed my rage. The most important thing right now was to stock up on spirit dollars. As for these parasites, I couldn't wait to see what would happen to them this time without me there to save them. My parents left me an inheritance of $3 million. Soon, all this money would be nothing but worthless paper. I had to convert all of it into spirit dollars before the apocalypse arrived. After all, only spirit dollars burned before the end of the world would be usable after. I opened a shopping app. Bundles of bills from the Spirit World Bank were incredibly cheap, only $1 a bundle. However, I ran into a problem when I looked at the denominations. After the apocalypse, the highest denomination of spirit dollars in circulation was 100. In my past life, I personally saw someone try to act rich with $1 million bill. The next second, he was torn to shreds on the street by a demon checking the currency. I sent my purchase request and the specific amount to several different sellers. Some customer service reps said they couldn't handle such a large order. Most of them just thought I was a scammer. I mean, what normal person would buy $3 million worth of spirit money, and only in $100 bills? It wasn't until late at night that a seller finally agreed to take my order. The only problem was they didn't have enough in stock. Making it from scratch would take time. Can you have it ready in 30 days? The person on the other end was silent for a long time before replying yes. But our spirit money is $3 a bundle, with 100 bills per bundle. It's a bit pricey, but the quality is guaranteed. I winced. That was a gut punch. It was 3 times more expensive than the other sellers. But time was short, and I couldn't afford to be picky. I gritted my teeth and paid a 30% deposit up front. I also contacted a crematorium and had the seller ship the goods directly there. The owner was thrilled to see how quickly I paid and repeatedly promised to deliver a quality product on time. With his assurance, my racing heart finally calmed down. Just as I sorted out the spirit money situation, my phone started ringing like crazy. I looked. Of course, it was my aunt. As soon as I answered, she started laying it on thick. Now that your parents are gone, we're your family. I scoffed, feeling a wave of nausea. Hearing her use my parents to manipulate me, I cut her off coldly. If you have something to say, say it. I'm going to bed. My aunt was stunned. I could faintly hear some muttering and cursing on her end. After a moment, she finally spoke, her voice laced with resentment. Your cousin is getting married soon, but we still haven't sorted out a house for her. I sneered inwardly. This was all too familiar. In my last life, as soon as my aunt heard I had inherited money, she called to borrow some. Back then, I was still grieving my parents' death. Her emotional act actually made me believe she considered me family. I did everything I could for them, and what did I get in return? They took the inheritance my parents left me, and that wasn't enough. They even wanted to use my house as a wedding gift for my cousin. If the apocalypse hadn't hit, I probably would have been kicked out onto the street. And when the end of the world came, they dismembered me for $100. Thinking of this, I cut her off, my voice tight with anger. I don't have any money. My aunt's voice shot up. How can you not have money? Your dad left you $3 million. What's a young girl like you going to do with all that cash? Stella, we're family. How can you be so cold? Is this how your parents raised you? Hearing her dare to bring up my parents, I exploded. I must have scared her, because she didn't say anything for a long moment. I laughed coldly into the phone. I spent all the money on spirit dollars. Believe it or not. With that, I hung up. The next morning, my aunt's family was blocking my doorstep at the crack of dawn. I deliberately made them wait. I didn't let them in until they were sweating buckets from the heat. My cousin, Jessica, shot me a dirty look the second she saw me. Then, acting like she owned the place, she threw herself onto the couch and snapped at me. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear us knocking? Go get me some water. I picked up a pitcher of iced tea from the table and dumped it straight onto her face. Jessica shrieked and jumped to her feet. I slapped away the hand she pointed at me. If you shout in my house again, it'll be boiling water next time. As entitled as Jessica was, she had only ever lived in peacetime. Faced with me, someone who had survived a world where people ate each other without a second thought, she immediately burst into tears and hid behind my aunt. My uncle's face was purple with rage, a vein throbbing on his forehead. How did your parents raise such a disrespectful brat? Since your parents are dead, I'll have to teach you a lesson for them today. I shot him a death glare. In my past life, he was the one who hacked off my arms and legs, one by one. My overwhelming hatred became a tangible force, freezing him in place. Seeing this, my aunt quickly stepped in, forcing a smile. Stella, don't be angry. Your uncle was just worried you'd get scammed. That's why he was a little harsh. Just tell your aunt the truth. Where did the $3 million go? I threw the transaction records in her face. My aunt stared at them, her eyes rolling back as if she was about to faint. Jessica was hopping mad, screaming that I was a lunatic. But when she saw me walking towards her with the teapot, she clapped her hands over her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. Coward. Seeing this family look like their world had ended, I sneered inwardly. The money was my parents'. It's only right that I use it to buy spirit dollars to honor them. Anyway, all the money my parents left me is gone. All that's left is this old house. My aunt shot up, her eyes gleaming. I knew she had taken the bait. I leisurely went to the kitchen to boil water for tea. Cries and arguments echoed from the living room. Jessica was on the floor, throwing a tantrum. She complained that my aunt had been too slow, letting $3 million slip through her fingers. We still have the house, don't we? It's in a good school district, it's sure to go up in value. Don't you worry, sweetie. Mom will definitely get it for you. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I was just worrying about how to sell the house, and my aunt's family walked right into my trap. When the apocalypse came, all the houses would be taken over by demons. Humans who wanted shelter would have to rent from them with spirit dollars. My house was seized by a demon just a few days after the end of the world began. At the time, I had spent most of my spirit money and paid with an arm just to escape from it. My aunt's family debated for a while and, as expected, brought up buying the house. $1.2 million. Not a penny less. My aunt's face immediately froze. She forced a smile. Stella, how about $800,000? We really can't come up with $1.2 million. I knew perfectly well they could come up with the money. They'd just have to scrape everything together, maybe even sell their own old house. But what did that have to do with me? My face hardened, and I threw the door open. If you don't want it, then leave. The market price for this house is at least $1.4 million. If you don't want it, plenty of other people will. My aunt knew $1.2 million was a steal. Hearing me say that, she got desperate and promised over and over to get the money together as soon as possible. 1 week max. After a week, I'm calling a realtor. Don't blame me if someone else gets a deal. My aunt gritted her teeth, swallowed her anger, and left. It wasn't until I closed the door that she started screaming curses at it. On the evening of the 6th day, my aunt stood at my door, her face dark. She looked much more haggard than she had 6 days ago. Even the gold bracelet she always wore and showed off on her socials was gone. I knew she had paid a steep price. Cash for the deed. Holding the property title, my aunt's family was all smiles. Jessica looked at me with her nose in the air. This is my house now. Get out. Memories of being tormented day and night by the demon in this house flooded my mind. I gave my aunt's family a cold smile. I couldn't wait to see the looks on their faces when the apocalypse came, and they realized what they had given everything for was a man-eating demon. With the $1.2 million in hand, I contacted the spirit money seller again. The seller took the order and even threw in a bunch of other funeral goods for free. I paused for a moment. In my last life, I was dirt poor, only able to afford the cheapest rooms. As for those skyscrapers, I couldn't even dream of them. The seller's offer gave me an idea. If paper money could be burned and credited to me, could paper houses and paper servants also be registered in my name? The thought kept me up all night with excitement. After all, money, no matter how much, eventually runs out. Real estate assets like houses could generate endless wealth. As for the paper servants, if they could also work for me, I'd have another layer of security in the apocalypse. I immediately sent a message to the seller. Out of the $1.2 million, I wanted another $200,000 in spirit dollars. The rest was to be converted into other funeral items. The more variety, the better. Then, I sent the seller my special requests. Besides the usual paper houses, I wanted a batch of high-rise building models. For the paper servants, quality was more important than quantity. They needed to be as exquisitely crafted as possible. The seller slowly sent back a single question mark. Just as I was racking my brain for a justification, the seller stopped asking. In our line of work, we know what to ask and what not to ask. But the things you want need to be custom ordered from a master craftsman. The price and quantity will have to be renegotiated. I breathed a sigh of relief that he didn't press further. The reality of the situation brought me back from my euphoric high. You decide how to allocate the money. The main thing is that everything must be burned within the specified time. The seller agreed to everything. For the remaining time, I checked into a random hotel. The spirit money and other items were delivered in batches to the crematorium, with the last batch set to be burned today. I paid the seller the remaining balance. After strongly suggesting he prepare some spirit money for himself, I canceled the phone number I used to contact him. Today was the last day of peace. I lay in bed, unable to sleep, terrified that something would go wrong and I would repeat the tragedy of my past life. The clock struck midnight. A familiar red glow instantly illuminated the world outside my window. The sky in the distance looked as if it had been torn open, and dark figures poured out. Instantly, wherever the demons passed, agonizing screams filled the air. I gripped the corner of the desk, my heart pounding. The apocalypse was here. At the same time, a cold sensation wrapped around my wrist. I looked down to see a bracelet firmly clasped there. A ding sounded in my ear. Then, blood-red text appeared before my eyes. Esteemed customer, welcome to the Spirit World Bank. In light of your substantial assets held with our bank, we are now providing you with exclusive services. All the spirit money I had burned was credited to my name. The screen flashed, and the system began to tally my properties, shops, vehicles, and more. The joy of my newfound wealth instantly washed away my fear of the apocalypse. I couldn't help but roll around on the bed in delight. A ghost phased through the hotel room door and drifted towards me, smelling a living person. Its face twisted with rage as it lunged at me. With a thought, a stack of cash appeared in my hand. I tossed it, and $100 bills scattered across the floor. The demon, which had been snarling a second ago, froze in place, its face a mask of disbelief. From now on, you're my personal masseuse. The demon seemed to take this as an insult and flew at me in a rage. I pulled out 2 more stacks of cash and threw them at its feet. It paused, then suddenly dropped to its knees before me. At your service, master. At your service. While I was enjoying my new masseuse's fawning service, My phone started ringing frantically. Seeing it was my aunt, a cold glint appeared in my eyes. I had let her harass me on my phone for days, all for this moment. The second I answered, agonized screams erupted from the other end. "Stella, what did you put in my house? Get it out of here now," I replied calmly. "Auntie, you're the one who wanted to buy the house. You've already changed the locks. What does any of this have to do with me?" My aunt's family started screaming curses at me. But under the demon's torment, it wasn't long before they were begging me for help. I listened to their screams for a while longer, then hung up. What's the rush? That demon tormented me for days. After I hung up, my new masseuse demon was still smiling obsequiously. Other demons that broke in saw its spineless behavior and looked ready to execute it on the spot. However, after I pelted them with bricks of cash, their expressions changed completely. And so, a bizarre scene unfolded in my hotel room. Demons of all shapes and sizes lined up to pitch their services to me. Soon, the entire hotel was swarming with them. I couldn't help but think to myself, money really does make the world, and the underworld, go round. Just as the demons were fighting tooth and nail for a single job, several white figures suddenly appeared at the hotel entrance. With a few flashes of white light, the demons shrieked in pain and scattered. The figures appeared before me in a flash. Before I could react, they lined up neatly and bowed. I took a closer look and breathed a sigh of relief. It was the paper servants I had burned earlier. I never expected them to actually appear in the apocalypse, let alone as a team of formidable bodyguards. The most elaborately dressed paper servant stepped forward. An electronic screen materialized in front of it. All my properties were listed and displayed on a map. A new area had appeared out of thin air on the northernmost side of the city. In the front was a bustling commercial street, and behind it were clusters of elegant villas. Among the villas, a magnificent courtyard mansion stood out. Surrounded by my bodyguards, I was driven towards North City in a daze. As we entered North City's territory, I noticed there wasn't a single demon in sight. Only paper servants were methodically maintaining order. When they saw my car pass, they stopped their work and bowed respectfully. A paper servant explained that this area of North City had appeared along with the apocalypse. At first, demons of all kinds coveted this land and fought fiercely for it. But soon, after the first wave of invaders was completely wiped out, no demon dared to challenge this territory again. The demons all speculated about who the owner of this land could be. But no matter how curious they were, they didn't dare get too close. Now this place could be called humanity's last paradise. After a brief orientation on North City, the car stopped in front of the courtyard mansion. I stood in the courtyard, taking a long time to come back to my senses. In this life, I had my own home. I no longer had to worry about a demon breaking in and chopping off my limbs to pay the rent. Thinking of my aunt's family, I turned on the security cameras I had installed in their house long ago. Right now, my aunt's family was huddled together in a corner of the living room. Looming over them was the very same demon that had taken over my house in my past life. The demon eyed the family greedily, as if deciding who to start with. A drop of saliva landed on Jessica's face. Her face froze, and she couldn't help but let out a scream. "Get away from me, you monster! Go to hell!" The complaint around the demon intensified, its bulging eyes fixed on my cousin. My aunt slapped Jessica across the face twice. "Shut your mouth!" Jessica's lip was split, but she forced back her tears and covered her mouth in terror. My aunt looked up at the demon, her voice fawning. "We don't want the house anymore. We'll leave right now." "But that's my wedding gift," Jessica whimpered, pulling on her mom's arm. After a vicious glare from my aunt, she fell silent, her face ashen. I watched them inch carefully towards the door and couldn't help but sneer. "You want to leave? It's not that easy." Just as my aunt's hand closed around the doorknob, her eyes filled with hope, a spray of blood hit her face. She stared down in a daze. 4 of her fingers had been sliced clean off and were now hanging from the doorknob. The reality of what happened finally hit her. She let out a blood-curdling scream, foamed at the mouth and collapsed backward. Jessica was so scared her face turned purple, and she shrieked as she scrambled away. My uncle leaned against a cabinet, vomiting violently. For a moment, no one bothered with my aunt, who was convulsing on the floor. The demon, its long tongue lolling out, repeated grimly, "Money, give me money." Jessica finally snapped out of it and pulled out every valuable she had. "Take it all. Please just let us go." But the things she treasured were worthless to the demon. "Give me spirit dollars," it repeated, closing in on them. Jessica didn't have anything like that. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing hysterically. "No spirit dollars, then a life for the debt. Who wants to stay?" My aunt's family clung to each other, begging for their lives. No one wanted to be the sacrifice. The demon's patience had run out. A red light flashed, and my uncle, who was still crying over my aunt, discovered his arm had fallen to the floor. My aunt and cousin screamed and scrambled away. My aunt even kicked his outstretched hand away as he reached for help. "Honey, the kids are still young. They can't grow up without me. I'm so sorry. I'll burn more money for you later." A look of despair washed over my uncle's contorted face. He struggled to push himself up with his remaining arm and wrapped his hand tightly around my aunt's throat. It wasn't until my aunt started to choke, her eyes rolling back, that Jessica, who had been frozen in terror, finally snapped out of it. "He'll stay. We choose him." My uncle tried to fight back, but the demon gave him no more chances. Watching the demon drag my uncle's limp body into the darkness, my aunt and Jessica hugged each other tightly, wailing as if they had been reborn. Jessica helped my aunt to her feet, and the two of them scrambled towards the door. "It's all your father's fault. If he had been a better provider, would we have had to buy this cursed house? He's dead now, and he deserved it. Mom will protect you from now on." "Is that so?" I smirked as I listened to my aunt's bold declaration. The front door opened. As the mother and daughter saw what was outside, the hope on their faces drained away. The area outside was swarming with demons. Right now, they were all staring intently at my aunt's severed hand. For demons that had starved for centuries, the smell of fresh blood was an irresistible temptation. Driven by maternal instinct, my aunt stood firmly in front of Jessica. Because of this, she didn't see the malicious glint that flashed across her daughter's face. My aunt was still begging the demons to spare them. "Mom, didn't you say you would protect me?" My aunt froze, then, as if realizing something, turned around in disbelief. The next second, Jessica shoved her forward. "Mom, I know you love me most. Your hand is already gone. You can't get away anyway. Why not trade your life for mine?" My aunt gripped Jessica's dress, refusing to let go. It was only when Jessica stomped on her mangled hand that she cried out in pain and released her grip. She was buried under a pile of demons, her flesh and blood being devoured. Jessica took one look and ran without turning back. In the end, the demons dismembered and devoured her. My aunt's eyes were wide open, staring in the direction her daughter had fled, as two streams of bloody tears rolled down her cheeks. She refused to believe that the daughter she loved so dearly would abandon her, holding on until the very end. But even after the last demon had its fill and left, she never saw Jessica look back. I watched my aunt's expression. I wonder if she finally understood the despair I felt when I was dismembered, piece by piece. I couldn't care less where Jessica ran off to. She was always lazy and spoiled without her mother. She probably couldn't even survive. I poured all my energy into building North City. After a few days of observation, I noticed that the paper servants only worked in specific areas and never set foot in the Villa district. The entire residential area was empty except for me. I didn't want to see such nice houses go to waste. After thinking it over, the next day I posted a rental notice outside North City. The news spread like wildfire. The North City Villa district was leasing, tenants limited to humans only. This sent shockwaves through the struggling human communities. There was actually a human faction capable of fighting back against the demons. In no time, people flocked to the gates of North City, hoping to find refuge. I sent paper servants out to maintain order. Many demons were attracted by the scent of the living. But having witnessed the power of the paper servants, none of them dared to make a move, only hovering anxiously at the perimeter. I stood on the wall, observing the people who had come seeking sanctuary. Most of their faces were etched with the fear and helplessness of the apocalypse. Suddenly, a small team in the corner caught my eye. Although they were grimy and disheveled, their eyes still burned with the will to survive. Compared to the other survivors, they seemed to be slightly better off. Those who passed the screening process rushed into North City, their faces beaming with excitement. Seeing their smiles, I felt a strange emotion stirring within me. Soon it was that small team's turn for screening. I pushed down my feelings and walked over to them. The leader was a young woman wearing a hood. She placed a stack of spirit dollars in front of me. "We're a demon hunting squad, and we're requesting your protection." I was inwardly surprised. When I saw the amount of spirit money in front of me, I couldn't help but purse my lips. To call themselves demon hunters and casually produce so much currency, they had to be formidable. A talisman appeared in the young woman's palm. As it burned, the oppressive demonic energy in the air vanished for a moment. "I'm a talisman master. After the apocalypse began, I formed a squad with my peers. That's how we made it here." She succinctly described her team's achievements, including raiding demon banks and hunting demons, things I had never even dared to imagine. I suspect these squads had been fighting all along in my past life. I was just too busy trying to survive back then, and never had the chance to meet them. Seeing my silence, the young woman's words slowed, and she finally sighed. She bowed her head in apology, took back the spirit money from the table, and was about to leave. Just then, someone rushed up to me. Ignoring the threat of the paper servants, he knelt directly before me. "Please let Lynn's group stay. I'm willing to give up my spot in the city." The young woman, Lynn, frowned and pulled the man to his feet. "Taking us in means openly opposing the demons. No one wants to get involved in that mess. The city lord opening the gates has already saved so many people. Don't try to guilt trip her." After being pulled up, the man immediately knelt down again. "Lynn saved many of our lives. If you don't go in, I'm not going in either." Watching this scene, I couldn't help but be moved. In my past life, I had only seen deceit and violence in the apocalypse. I never imagined that such warmth could exist amidst the horror. Now, even though I owned an entire city and had more money than I could spend, my only thought had been self-preservation. I never dared to dream of saving humanity. After all, no matter how strong my paper bodyguards were, they couldn't protect everyone. But seeing this team, a thought I'd never had before ignited in my mind. If the power of these talismans could be strengthened and used by more people, could it mean there was still hope for humanity? Thinking of the hopeful faces of the people who had entered the city, I stopped the young woman who was about to leave. "North City welcomes you." Lynn stared at the key in her hand, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. The young woman's name was Lynn. From her, I learned that even before the apocalypse, rogue ghosts would occasionally appear. It was just that back then, the ghosts weren't nearly as powerful. Talisman masters like her could easily repel them. But now, with the apocalypse in full swing, the demon's power had surged, while the talisman masters had lost their supply of materials, greatly diminishing their strength. Lynn and her group had lost more than half their members before reaching North City. "Do you know any other talisman masters?" Lynn gave a bitter smile. "Talisman masters are scattered all over the country. Now that the world has ended, my own sect is struggling to survive. We don't have the resources to contact anyone else." I understood. That night, I sent paper servants to post rental notices in more distant places, adding that those with special skills would be given preferential treatment. Within a few days, the number of people seeking refuge in North City had doubled. Among them were not only people from important pre-apocalypse professions, but also a handful of individuals with ghost exorcising abilities. I was thrilled, but my joy was short-lived. North City, though large, had its limits. In just a few days, the residences inside were more than half full. I was no longer content with just surviving the apocalypse. If I wanted to revive humanity, I had to expand North City. The vast amount of spirit dollars I burned before the end of the world came in handy. I ordered my paper servants to acquire land outside North City, while secretly purchasing the materials needed for making talismans. In a few days, North City had grown larger. The displaced demons were resentful but, under the influence of money, dared not voice their anger. Meanwhile, with high-quality materials, the power of Lynn's talismans increased dramatically. Although everything was heading in the right direction, I knew that reviving humanity would not be so simple. That night, I received a visit request from a demon lord. Worried he might harm me, Lynn worked through the night to create a batch of talismans for me to carry. She even offered to meet with the demon lord in my place. I refused. This visit from the demon lord was part of my plan all along. I just didn't expect a small incident to occur on the day of the demon lord's visit. I arrived at the North City gate early, wanting to secretly observe the power of a lord-level demon. Just then, a cup of hot tea was spilled on my dress. My face hardened as I looked up. My cousin Jessica's face, which I hadn't seen in a long time, appeared before me. She was now caked in heavy makeup, leaning against a greasy-looking man. Before I could speak, Jessica sneered. "I can't believe you're not dead yet. Guess the desperate really do have 9 lives. But I guess you'll only ever be looking in from the outside of North City. A place like this isn't for a poor wretch like you." With that, she snuggled into the man's arms. The man gave me a sleazy once-over. Seeing this, Jessica's eyes darted around. "You may be a grimy little thing, but you're not completely hideous. If you get on your knees and apologize to me and Mr. Peterson right now, maybe he'll make an exception and take you in to see the Villa District." Mr. Peterson sat down in front of me with a swagger, his chin held high in arrogance. I just laughed coldly and watched them. I was no longer the little girl my aunt's family could push around. My cold stare made Mr. Peterson's expression shift, and the contempt on his face subsided slightly. But Jessica was as clueless as ever. Emboldened by her new protector, she was dying to grind me into the dirt. When she saw that I didn't even react to the mention of the Villa District, she became enraged. "What a pathetic loser. You've probably never even heard of the Villa District. Well, I'll have you know, I'm moving in this afternoon. People like you will never set foot in a place like that in your entire life." I looked at Jessica, my contempt unconcealed. "You don't even know who owns North City, do you?" Mr. Peterson's eyes lit up, and a look of regret flashed across his face. He tried to stop Jessica, but she was on a power trip and couldn't be bothered with his attempts to restrain her. "What are you going to say? This place belongs to you? In this city, you're not even worthy of being a dog, yet you're dreaming of being the city lord." Her words were overheard by Lynn, who had just returned to report to me. With a wave of her hand, the scalding hot tea in front of me splashed onto Jessica's face. Jessica shrieked in pain. Her face contorted as she screamed insults at us. But the next second, Mr. Peterson slapped her to the ground. Jessica stared at him in disbelief. "You dare hit me? Are you trying to get with this little tramp? Stella, you're nothing but a home-wrecking slut." Hearing Jessica say my name, Mr. Peterson's face went deathly pale. He turned and kicked her hard in the chest. "Shut your mouth. I took you in because I felt sorry for you after your parents abandoned you. If I'd known it would come to this, I would have let you die in that demon swarm." Abandoned by her parents? I couldn't help but laugh out loud, stepping on Jessica's chest. "You haven't forgotten how your mother died, have you?" Jessica's face changed drastically. She lunged, trying to grab my throat. But this was my territory. Before she could touch me, 2 paper servants appeared in front of me. Jessica stared at her broken arm for a second, then let out a piercing wail. But this time, she didn't dare curse me. After all, everyone knew there was only one person the paper servants answered to. Mr. Peterson approached me with a fawning smile, holding out a card. "Mississippi Stella, this woman has nothing to do with me. I have no idea what got into her. This is just a small token of my sincerity. I hope North City will accept me. In the apocalypse, anyone with a Spirit World Bank Universal card had at least 10 million in savings." I didn't take the card, just looked at him with cold, emotionless eyes. "Mr. Peterson, the one thing I don't lack is money. I'll give you one last minute. If you're not gone, you can stay here with her." The smile froze on Mr. Peterson's face. He looked like he wanted to say more, but after a glance at the paper servants behind me, he turned and left, his face ashen. As he passed Jessica, he shot her a venomous glare. Jessica finally came to her senses. "You can't leave. You said you'd take me into the city. We have money, don't we?" Mr. Peterson cursed, kicked her aside and stalked off. Jessica collapsed to the ground, then scrambled to my feet. "I'm your cousin. If you dare kick me out, I'll tell everyone outside how cold-hearted you are." I pushed her away. She wouldn't get the chance to leave the city. I ordered the paper servants to lock her in the dungeon. It was dark and windowless, with only a video recorder playing on a loop. Since she had forgotten how her mother died, I would help her remember. After dealing with that, the demon lord arrived at the gate of North City. The defense line that could stop all the lesser demons had little effect on him. He paused for only a moment before continuing his approach. A chill went down my spine. I could only be thankful that I hadn't let my wealth go to my head and acted recklessly. I had no idea how many demons of this caliber existed, let alone those who were even more powerful. The Lord exuded an aura of rage, putting pressure on me from all sides. I smiled through the bone-chilling demonic presence. You misunderstand. I'm just a businesswoman. I know what I should and shouldn't do. The Lord snorted, clearly not believing me. I continued on my own. My recent rapid expansion is just due to some cash flow problems. If you could lend me a few spirit dollars, then? The Lord's expression softened slightly. But when I told him the amount I needed to borrow, his face instantly darkened again. In 1 year, I will repay you double with interest. The Lord stared at me ominously. Human, if you can't pay me back, I will slice you into 1,000 pieces. Of course. If I can't pay you back, not only am I yours to command, but this entire city will be yours as well. The Lord pondered for a moment, then snorted, tossed a card at my feet, and vanished. I picked up the card, satisfied, and returned to the city. Over the next few months, I used the same trick to get more money from other demon lords. Not only did I repay the first lord's loan before the year was up, but I also had plenty of funds to supply Lynn with materials for her talismans. The other demon lords, tempted by the high interest rates, never refused my requests for loans. And so by robbing Peter to pay Paul, I bought North City a lot of time to develop. But the interest on my debts had already grown to an unpayable amount. Looking at the long string of zeros after the loan amount, Lynn couldn't help but sigh. I smiled and reassured her. I now controlled most of the liquid capital in the underworld. Those lords wouldn't dare touch me. According to the underworld bank's rules, if I died, all my assets would be automatically cancelled, and they wouldn't get a single cent. Driven by greed, whenever I asked the next lord for a loan, he would give it to me, even if he had to take out a loan himself. After all, every demon was gambling that I, the ticking time bomb, wouldn't explode in their hands. That way, they could effortlessly double their funds while sitting at home. In the past, I might have been afraid of their retaliation. But now North City's influence was growing, and more talented individuals were flocking here. Lynn and her team had integrated the strengths of various disciplines to improve their talismans, and had even laid a massive formation of runes beneath North City. No matter how angry those lords were, they had to consider whether they could afford to provoke the current North City. Wary of North City's power, the demons no longer acted as arrogantly in the human world as they once had. Humans and demons coexisted in a tense peace for several more years. Finally, one day, all the demons returned to the underworld one after another. It turned out the underworld's economy could no longer withstand my manipulations, and they left, gritting their teeth in frustration. After more than a decade of darkness, humanity finally saw the light. The surviving humans all came to North City, expanding outwards from it as a new center. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before this place became as bustling as it was before the apocalypse. On the day the demons retreated, I remembered there was still someone locked in the dungeon. The demons, resentful of me but not daring to act, directed all their fury towards my cousin. Having received news of this in advance, I deliberately weakened the guard, allowing the demons to easily enter the prison. The night before I sent Jessica on her way, I saw her one last time. This time, she wasn't screaming and yelling at me. She just stared at me with cold, sinister eyes. You knew everything all along, didn't you? You colluded with the demons to kill my parents, didn't you? I thought she might have figured out I was reborn. I never expected her imagination to run that wild. But what did it matter? No one argues with a dead person. I leaned in close to her ear. I watched as her pupils dilated. You tell me. The end.